You know how we always panic when our phone battery drops to 6%? We scramble for a charger, plug it in right away, because we can't imagine being disconnected. But have you ever wondered, why don't we treat our own energy the same way? That's the exact question that David Coe, CEO of Calm, started asking himself one evening. He was juggling non-stop meetings, family responsibilities, Slack messages, and notifications. And in the middle of it all, he looked down and noticed his phone battery was low. 6%. So of course, he reached for the charger. But then it hit him. Why am I more worried about my phone battery than my own mental state? That small moment led to a big shift, and eventually to his book, Recharge. It's not about fancy retreats or expensive apps. It's about something simpler, something we tend to ignore. It's about checking in with ourselves, setting small boundaries, and having honest conversations that help us recharge before we crash. Because whether we admit it or not, we all have a mental battery. When it's charged, we feel clear, calm, and connected. But when it's drained, even the smallest tasks feel impossible. The goal, Coe reminds us, is not just to survive the day, but to stay in touch with what energizes us and what doesn't, and then take action to protect that energy. One story that stayed with me was about actor Randall Park. On the outside, everything looked great. He was working, performing, making people laugh. But inside, he was struggling with panic attacks and anxiety. He said his brain just wouldn't slow down. He kept trying to push through until he couldn't anymore. That's when he discovered mindfulness. Not the trendy app version, but something way simpler. Just pausing. 10 seconds of silence, a deep breath between tasks, a short moment to ask himself, "Am I okay?" Over time, those mini pauses became his anchor. He said, "I didn't need to fix everything. I just needed to come back to myself." And you know what? That made me realize, sometimes the most powerful recharge is a pause, a breath, a moment of stillness before the next thing. You don't need a meditation cushion or incense. Just stop. Just breathe. That's enough to begin. Another powerful story in the book came from Macklemore, the rapper. He talked about being on stage, in front of thousands of people, winning awards, living the dream. But he said inside, he felt completely alone, like he was putting on a mask for everyone else, while hiding what he was really going through: addiction, shame, and emotional exhaustion. He said it wasn't the fame or success that healed him. It was a simple conversation in rehab. Another person looked him in the eye and listened. No judgment, just presence. And in that moment, he felt seen. It's a reminder that we don't always need to give advice or solve problems. Sometimes we just need to show up, ask someone how they really are. Listen without rushing in to fix. Because real conversations, that's where healing happens. And healing, in Coe's words, is one of the best ways to recharge. The book also talks about how these ideas apply to the workplace, because burnout isn't just a personal problem, it's cultural. Coe shares the example of John Sculley, the former CEO of Apple. He didn't just lead with strategy, he led by listening. He called himself the Chief Listening Officer. Sculley believed that leadership wasn't about always having the answers, it was about creating space for others to be heard. One of his most powerful moments as a leader wasn't a big speech, but a quiet conversation with a junior team member who had a great idea because he made time to listen. That conversation led to a key innovation. Even if we're not managers or CEOs, that lesson applies. At work, at home, in relationships, we can all create space. A little more curiosity, a little less urgency. Because when people feel seen, they stay connected. And connection is a form of energy, too. One of the most inspiring voices in the book is Common, the rapper, actor, and activist. He talks about something he calls the 4 pillars of his daily routine: food, body, soul, and mind. Every day he checks in with each one. He eats well, moves his body, takes time to pray or reflect, and feeds his mind with something new: reading, learning, exploring. He says, "When I take care of all 4, I show up as my full self." That really stuck with me, because let's be honest, most of us are barely balancing one or two of those pillars. We skip meals, we sit for hours, we don't pause, we don't read, and then we wonder why we feel depleted. So here's something simple you can try. Pick one pillar, just one. Go for a walk, cook a healthy meal, journal for 5 minutes, read a single page from a book you love. Doesn't have to be big, it just has to be intentional. That's how we start to recharge, not all at once, but one habit at a time. One of the most touching parts of the book is when David Coe talks about parenting. He shares how he used to ask his kids the usual question, "How was your day?" And he'd get the usual answer, "Fine." But then he tried something different. He asked, "How's your battery today?" And that opened a new kind of dialogue. One day his daughter said, "Probably 40%. School was kind of rough." That one answer led to a real conversation about what happened, how she felt, and what she needed. And suddenly, that question became a family ritual. It made me realize we all need better ways to ask how someone's doing, not just, "Are you okay?" logically, but "What's draining you?" or "What gave you energy today?" Because when we ask better questions, we get better answers. And that emotional check-in? That's another way to recharge together. Finally, the book ends with practical habits, tiny shifts that anyone can do, even on the busiest day. Things like turning off notifications for 30 minutes, going for a short walk without your phone, setting a no-email boundary after dinner, saying no to things that drain you, saying yes to things that restore you. David Coe reminds us, you don't need to change your entire life to start feeling better. You just need to notice what's helping you and what's hurting you, and then take one step in the right direction. One woman he interviewed said her biggest act of self-care this year wasn't a retreat. It was canceling one unnecessary meeting every week and using that hour to think, rest, or just breathe. Sometimes the best way to move forward is to stop and recharge. So here's the question for you. What's your battery level right now? 80%? 60%? Maybe 10? Whatever it is, take it seriously. You deserve to feel full. You deserve space to breathe. And the best part? It doesn't take much. Just a pause, a breath, a check-in with yourself or someone you care about. Because like David Coe says, every time you check your phone, take a second to check on yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that one conversation could change everything.